Hello everybody and welcome back to what honestly might be the penultimate, or maybe even ultimate, I doubt it'll be ultimate, but maybe penultimate episode of Tyrion Cuthbert. I think I'm just gonna spend the rest of the day just cracking down on this game and should be done soon, which is exciting. I want to get done before October for, reasons. We step outside the Scale Lord's lair to get some fresh air. These new revelations are a lot to take in. Sus looks especially down. From what we've observed, she and Arya have been speaking to each other a lot. They must have become friends over the many times they've met. We can't imagine how powerless she feels right now. Arya, I'm so sorry. Don't be. Her voice begins to break. She's always been stoic. But it's clear even she has her breaking point. I can't imagine what you're feeling right now. But there's still hope. If we can find out who did this to you, we can still save you. Do you remember if you've signed anything recently? No, I don't. Damn it. The patron must have wiped your memories to cover the tracks. But I still don't understand. Even if I don't remember signing that contract, I don't think I would be that careless. Right. As much as I may hate to admit it, Lucia was right. You're an attorney like me, and we always carefully look over contracts before we sign them. Which raises the question of how the patron got your signature. I don't know. I just... Damn it. I don't even know what circumstances you were under when you signed that contract. For all we know, the patron could have used any number of tactics to coerce you into doing this. That's also possible. Yeah. Maybe it was for a school field trip. She just really wanted to go to the zoo. The joke sucked. As you're deliberating amongst yourselves, Lord Steelwind approaches you. What are you doing here? Father? I'm grumpy now. I can't believe him. How does he have nothing to say? His actions say otherwise, but you could have sworn you saw something through the eye. It's almost as if he was saddened and worried. Well, no matter how he feels internally, he's made it clear that he's your enemy. Whatever his motivations are, you'll overcome him, just like everyone else. We should also try and head back, Celeste. I'll try. Do or do not, there is no try. You ever heard of Star Wars, Celeste? I know it isn't in this universe, but it's pretty dope. Right. No matter what it takes, you're gonna see this through. Hey, buddy. Court is now resumed. Shall we pick up where we carried off? How would you like to proceed? I think we should review what we do know about the murders. We do have a plethora of witnesses to work with. That's correct. So let's start from the beginning. It all began yesterday morning. I was at my house in Mathome with Arya and my bodyguard, Celeste. I was speaking with them when a courier suddenly delivered a letter to my home. It was from Garrett Pierce. He wanted to meet with me and Celeste at the Grand Cathedral of the Scale Lord at 2 p.m. To make sure we were on time, we arrived at the Grand Cathedral at 1 p.m. At the time, we didn't know that the cathedral was closed to the public. But the knights guarding the cathedral allowed us through anyways. Apparently, they were expecting us. That should not have been possible. Due to the solemnity of the situation, we were very particular about who was permitted to enter the cathedral. It's possible someone pulled some strings to let us through. Or you two entered the cathedral illegally. Well, I'm sure that knight from the King's Guard can vouch for us. I know about every order given to the King's Guard, and none of them were told to let you two through. It's possible the night we met fell comatose like the others, and as long as they're unresponsive, we'll never know. Perhaps we should continue. Anyways, as we arrived at the church and spent the next hour sightseeing before we went... We arrived at the church and spent the next hour sightseeing before we went to meet with Pierce. In that time, we met with Remus, Lucio, Arya, Asta, and Alaric. And around that time, Arya and Asta left together to meet with the High Speaker in his quarters. While exploring the cathedral, we spoke with Von Sanctus and Sybil. Then we spoke with the three Frege sisters and Eris Ilmater. She's a friend of Beatrice Frege. The King's Guard wouldn't let her bring her familiar into the cathedral, so she brought Eris to guide her instead. Anyways, we left the garden around 1:45 p.m. At around the same time, Arya left her meeting with the High Speaker and felt nauseous. The last thing she remembers is looking at Lake Galacron. A likely story. Regardless, at 2 p.m., Asta went to pay respects to his father's body. Unbeknownst to him, a mage had placed a glyph of contingency in front of his father's coffin. It was set to trap him within a false cage. What a despicable act. Considering what followed, the attack on His Majesty must have been a diversion. Right. It was also at this time that both Beatrice and Eris went missing. Considering the time of it all, someone must have taken control of Beatrice's body after the trap on Asta was sprung. And are you saying this patron controlled her as well? No, I don't think so. According to her contract, her mind belongs to the Empress of Discord, not the patron. Furthermore, Arya's blood contract was created by the Empress. It's clear that the patron and the Empress were in league with each other. Wonderful. Another demon we have to worry about. Anyways, the patron and the Empress had all of the pieces they needed. That's when they began the massacre. The patron took control of Arya's body, and they used her to murder Von Sanctus at 2:05 p.m. Presumably, Arya started a fire in the common room around this time. And since Von Sanctus's body was found there, this must have been after she murdered him. Shortly after, Prince Alaric spotted smoke from the fire and asked Arya what was going on. Arya responded by using an unknown transmutation spell to incapacitate him. To think they would use her to attack the prince as well. Luckily, the effects on that spell were only temporary, and Alaric came out unharmed. After this, the patron used Arya to murder Sybil at 2:15 p.m. She brought Sybil's body to the westward balcony, where she dumped it into Lake Galacron. High Speaker Arceus witnessed this, but he wasn't aware of what she'd thrown off the balcony until much later. High Speaker thought this encounter was strange, but he continued with his business. He headed to the prayer room, but he was turned away by the knight standing guard there. Meanwhile, Celeste and I were talking to Lord Pierce. When we showed up for the meeting earlier, he was clearly expecting someone else to show up. We tried to get to the bottom of what was happening, but he refused to answer our questions. And at about 2:20 p.m., we heard a commotion outside. Celeste went to investigate. And that's when Celeste fought Arya. The patron's target was Garrick Pierce, but Celeste was too powerful to neutralize. They fought each other for about 15 minutes before Arya was finally able to push past her. During the fight, the Emperor sent Beatrice into the prayer room. She probably made Beatrice invisible to move undetected. She then used her to cast a sleep spell on Pierce and me to knock us out. I remember checking the time close to when this happened. This must have happened at 2:30 p.m. If your testimony is correct, Beatrice Frege was actively used in this plan. Yes, and considering how quickly the massacre unfolded, the Empress must have coordinated with the patron. They probably planned how they would use Beatrice and Arya to carry out the murders. Anyways, after Beatrice knocked us out, Arya finally pushed past Celeste and entered the prayer room. And before Celeste could chase after her, she had already murdered Pierce. Arya and I were already unconscious by the time Celeste entered the room. The patron had already achieved the goal of murdering the three nobles, so she probably fell unconscious after they released their control over her. Jesus Christ, this is taking forever. Arya and I regained consciousness shortly after, and that's when the Inquisition arrested her for the murders. Lord Pierce was one of the victims. Your meeting clearly had more significance than I realized. Bah! So tell us, Cuthbert, what was your discussion about? It's fine. You can spill the deeds. Alright, as long as it's okay with you. For the past few months, Celeste and I have been investigating who her birth parents are. I recall receiving many complaints about her during the Lord's Ball. Supposedly, Garrick Pierce had the information we were seeking. That letter he sent us said that he wanted to trade this information for his freedom. I assume this means that he wanted me to be his attorney. Do you honestly expect us to believe that? Why would he ask for help from the attorney who indicted him in the first place? We felt the same thing, and when we arrived for the meeting, it was clear I wasn't the intended recipient. This means that Pierce sent that letter to someone else. You better not be lying to us, Cuthbert. Frankly, I don't much care if you believe me. Regardless, we examined every action Arya took and can build a psychological profile of the patron. I will give you that. To begin, the defense would like to call the Inquisition commander to the stand. His testimony might shed some light on how Von Sanctus and Sybil died. Despite all these witness accounts, we still only know how Pierce was murdered. Yes, he was impaled using a blade magically frozen from his own blood. In a grim sort of way, it's almost poetic that he died the same way Flintheart did. But you doubt that'll give Celeste any kind of closure. Anyways, we need to find out exactly how Arya murdered Von Sanctus and Sybil. The massacre was swift and efficient, and must have required a lot of forethought and coordination. If we figured out who might have had this knowledge, we might be able to find out who did this. I see. That sounds as good a plan as any. King's Guard, escort Commander Orm White to the witness stand. Sorry, I'm taking a drink. Witness, please state your name and occupation. Right, Commander? I'm sorry, I just can't do this. How am I supposed to act like this is normal? A giant lizard is standing right behind... He's standing right behind me, isn't he? Calling me a lizard is highly offensive, Commander. Sorry, your scale lordship, sir. And, just try your best to testify about what happened. Yeah. It all started when we received a report from the King's Guard. The prosecutor attacked Prince Alaric and fire had broken out in the common room. We weren't sure what the deal with Steelwind was, so we went to the common room to put out the fire. But when we got there, we noticed a bunch of unconscious knights in front of the prayer room. We went to the prayer room. That's when we found Steelwind and Cuthbert unconscious next to Pierce's dead body. We later found the bodies of Von Sanctus and Sybil, too. That's when we realized that she offed all three of them. So you still have no idea how Steelwind was used to murder Von Sanctus or Sybil? Not a clue. It's especially worse for Von Sanctus. That fire burned a lot of the physical evidence off his body. What about Sybil? Was there any physical evidence on her body? No idea about that either. She didn't have any wounds either. All we know is that she died of suffocation. There's definitely more information that you can glean from the investigation. I guess I'm gonna have to keep pressing because that all sounds right. The prosecutor attacked Prince Alaric. I guess we could present that she didn't off all three of them, but I think she did, so I guess I'm gonna keep pressing. And this is mainly based on Prince Alaric's testimony, am I correct? Yeah. We still have no idea which transmutation spell she hit him with. Judging from the time of the report, this must have been well after all three of the murders occurred. Right. It was unfortunate how that played out. If Sealwind really was controlled, whoever controlled her knew how to get the job done quickly. That leaves the question of how they did it so efficiently. Was that wise? Regardless of who it was, someone assaulted a Prince of Wyvengard. We were already dealing with the king who was trapped in that forced cage. Honestly, a lot happened that hour. And most of our attention was focused on keeping the royal family safe. We can already conclude that the attack on the king was a distraction. Whoever orchestrated this must have known we'd focus our attention on keeping the royal family safe. Suppose that makes sense. The casualties still included many knights from the King's Guard. They probably had to spread their forces thin to protect everyone else and handle the fight in the common room. What did you do when you arrived at the common room, Commander? Right. Did you see AotA or Celeste? No. We only saw the aftermath of their fight. There were marks and craters everywhere in that hallway. Pierce's time of death was 2:45 p.m. and the knights didn't arrive at the common room until 3:10. They didn't arrive at the prayer room until well after the battle had taken place. Wait, wouldn't that mean you were in that room with Pierce's body for 25 minutes? Why didn't you look for help? You weren't waking up for some reason, so I kept channeling my healing magic into you. Looking back, I probably should have looked for help. But even if Arya was unconscious, I didn't want to leave you alone in that room with her. Oh, right, sorry. Recalling that moment is clearly taking a toll on her mind. You should be more careful. Judging from the timing, this would have been several minutes after he had already died. Right, and we had no idea what was going on. Pierce was already dead, and you and Sealwind were unresponsive. I can see why I'd be unresponsive. I was hit with a spell specifically designed to make people sleep. But why would Arya be unresponsive too? We have no idea. We've never even heard of demonic possession until today. For all we know, it could have been a side effect of being controlled for over an hour. You suppose that makes sense? But could that common thread truly be a mere coincidence? The last statement was a little vague. Perhaps you should ask him to elaborate more on one of the murders. But whose murder? Let's go Sybil. Could you elaborate more on Sybil's murder? Was there any evidence that implied how she died? Using our divination magic, we know she died of suffocation. But we're not exactly sure how. But unlike Von Sanctus's body, Sybil's body wasn't burned. Shouldn't there have been wounds around her neck if she was suffocated? Well, we found traces of necromancy on Sybil. We think Sealwind cast many wounds on her body after she offed her. This would have removed any wounds on the body. It's exactly like what happened with Catherine Bellwether. Right. The only wounds she has are from the impact of falling into Lake Galakrond. Anyways, please add this to your testimony, Commander White. Right. Whatever you say, kid. But he's not sure. Here. But he's not sure. Could swear that he saw something darker. Right, okay, so we're not going there yet. Let's look at the others. How'd you know her body was that anyways? When bodies started dropping, we noticed that she was nowhere to be found. One of the Kingsguard has located a creature and realized she was somewhere in the lake. It took us an hour before we finally fished her out. Based on the High Speaker's testimony, she was dead long before that. How much you know? There's a lot of details missing on how Von Sanctus and Sybil died. Clues. Shouldn't have the commander elaborate on what you know about each of the murders. So there's a body. Let's press on this. Go to the murder. I guess he had some extra dialogue. Let's go to Lloyd. Could you elaborate more on Von Sanctus's murder? Was there any evidence that implied how he died? Like I said, it's trickier with Von Sanctus because the fire partially burned his body. And our divination magic could only tell that he died of suffocation. I see, so there's no other physical evidence. Well, there is one thing. From his burn marks, we do know that he was hit with a firebolt before he died. We're guessing she wanted to weaken him before she dealt the final blow. So he took a direct attack from her before he died. Anyways, please add this to your testimony. Sure, whatever you say, kid. Right, Firebolt isn't a spell compendium. Von Sanctus wasn't exactly a fighter, after all. Right. The poor sap didn't have a chance. He must have been in immense pain from that attack. Here's the last initial which she used. Both died via suffocation. Can't help it. What? What? Oh, they're having a cute moment. Okay. Let's talk about Garrick. Could you elaborate more on Pierce's murder? Was there any evidence that implied how he died? Well, that one is simple. McCoy chased Steele into the prayer room, but didn't arrive fast enough. When she got there, Pierce was already dead. He was killed using a blade magically formed from his own blood. But why would she do something like that? When he murdered Flynn on McCoy, he only used shaped liquid to avoid leaving behind any evidence. I doubt the patron would make Steelwind do the same thing. The intent was to pin the crime on her. We think that she knew McCoy was on her tail. She didn't have enough time to suffocate him as she did with Von Sanctus and Sybil. And she didn't have any weapons on her. She must have had to improvise. What she has are the spells that could have done the job. She could have hit him with a Steelwind strike. I know from experience that she is terrible at controlling that spell. It's possible she didn't want to unleash such a powerful spell in a closed room. That sort of tracks, but I don't feel right. Can't really refute it now, but best we move on. Anyways, the other two murders were really well planned. Pierce's murder was the only one that required improvisation. It's possible that the patron severely underestimated McCoy's combat capabilities. She fought my daughter for almost half an hour. Meanwhile, the other two murders occurred within quick succession of one another. Right, I see what you mean. Anyways, please add this to your testimony, Commander White. Whatever you say, kid. Let me look at our spell compendium. Look at our spell compendium? Yeah. Moon Firebolt shape. Ow. Spell magic, seal and strike, detect magic, polymorph, and the whole creature. What about you? What's your compendium? Discern message, animate corpse, necrotic bite, invisibility, feign death, and illusory disguise. Alright, so you... Of the two of you, it makes more sense that, Arya did kill you. Guess we'll have the fire. Improvise a weapon. Any other weapons in the room? Can we use the debris near the balcony to think about things with Sybil? We can try that. A little strange though, how so? She's in tough combat and I've experienced McCoy's battle prowess firsthand. As much as I hate to admit it, McCoy should have easily overcome her Didn't even fight. Just imagine that was a problem, and I had no idea what kind of spell she gets around me, so I had to be careful. Despite everything, I really didn't want to hurt her. That kind of gonna be the death of you, McCoy. We better just let that slide. Anyways, it's Pierce the Faking we want to focus on. Let's go back to Sybil. She died of suffocation and wounds. The thing that said that she had many wounds. Double check. Yeah, literally first thing.
Objection!
Any chance this has anything to do with anything? I'm not sure which one I would put it on.
Objection!
Yeah, shucks, now I'm confused. Whew. That her body in the Galacron. Someone must have done her body from the balcony above. Does that... I already did that, right? Transmutation, evocation, and necromancy. Anyone must have done her body from the balcony above. Nothing about the evocation magic. That's odd. Discovered a body in the Galacron. Yeah, shoot, I'm confused.
Objection!
Okay. Let's, here, let me cut to when I figure things out. Alright, so I think I'm about to figure something out. Here, let's go. Let's press on this. I think I want to go back to Garrick. Chris was dead. What's interesting about this one is how he died. Here. Let's scroll through this. Suffocate him. Let's steal and kill Pierce in the prayer room. But he died of blood loss.
Objection!
No? Maybe it's the first one?
Objection!
No? Alright. Oof. Yeah, alright, okay. I think I've got it figured out. Here, let me see. I've been doing some thinkings, been doing some schemings. I was looking at the spell compendiums. He's got mend wounds and the force cage. Yeah.
Objection!
Nope, that's what the guide said. What do you mean? Oh. Okay, so here.
Objection!
Oh, there we go. Alright, I had to look. I'm gonna be real. I looked at the guide again. I don't fully understand this one still. That's strange. What is it now? Commander White, you said the Seaman attacked Von Sanctus with a firebolt before she suffocated him. Right. She'd probably want to injure him so he'd be easier to subdue. But that's what I find strange. Von Sanctus knew he was under attack, so wouldn't he cast False Cage to repel her? I guess that's true. Von Sanctus was hardly a warrior, Cuthbert. Yeah, that's kind of just why I didn't even think about that line of thinking. False Cage is an extremely useful spell, but it has to be aimed. He was hit with a firebolt, and he must have been in immense pain. I doubt he'd be able to think clearly under those circumstances. I normally agree with you, but the crime scene tells another story. What do you mean, Mr. Cuthbert? What do you mean? Oh, the magic. There was a big old thing of magic. When we investigated the crime scene, we found traces of abjuration magic that formed the perfect square on the body. I'm sure if we measured the dimensions of that square, it would be 10 feet by 10 feet. Which is the same length and width as the cube created by False Cage. Like you said, he was in no shape to aim it. So we cast False Cage on himself to create a makeshift barrier.
Objection!
Nonsense. If Von Sanctus had cast False Cage on himself, He should have been protected from further harm. The defendant wouldn't have been able to suffocate him after that. Perhaps there's some way to bypass Fool's Cage. And once again, your ignorance of the arcane arts is made apparent. Fool's Cage is one of the most powerful abjuration spells in existence. It can't be dispelled, and no one could teleport in or out of it. Right. Asta was also trapped in Fool's Cage, and he had to wait for the hour of duration to elapse. So how did Steelwind suffocate him? Wait. If Fool's Cage is a perfectly closed space, is it possible that he ran out of air? That would be a glaring weakness. House Form Sanctus obviously designed that spell to allow oxygen through the barrier. And before you ask, poisonous gases can't be pushed through the barrier either. I was thinking that, yeah, only oxygen can travel through it. Right. And even if they had used poisonous gas, the autopsy report wouldn't have said he was suffocated. Alright. Arya tricked from Sanctus. Oh. Arya consumed all the oxygen in the common room. Well, no, I'm in the wrong. Maybe I have to go the patron. Or prevent him from breathing. If she was outside the forced cage, how could she have suffocated him? Arya tricked. Lord Sanctus inside the cage? No. What? The common room, the cage. I'm on the right track here. Just get rid of all the oxygen, right? Nah. What? No. Man, I can feel the guide on my left just tingling. The fire... Oh, the fire did it. Duh. Oh. That's what I was thinking. I was like, oh, it'd be the fire, but I didn't really consider the fire as well. Fool's Cage is specifically designed to allow oxygen through its barrier. But what if there was no oxygen left in the room? No oxygen? Oh, I see. It was the fire in the common room. The patron knew Arya couldn't harm Von Sanctus once he was in that forced cage. So she started the fire to eat all the oxygen within the room. I figured it out. I didn't use the guide that time. Okay. What should have protected him ended up trapping him, and the inability to spell it ended up sealing his fate. Well, I suppose that explains how the defendant murdered Von Sanctus. But with that in mind, a lot of this plan sounds like it was improvised at the moment. Just like the murder of Pierce. And not only that, we assume that the patron used the same method to kill both Lord Von Sanctus and Lady Sybil. I doubt Lady Sybil died under the same circumstances. Correct, there was only one fire. And if Sybil was in the false cage, the defendant wouldn't have been able to throw her body into Lake Galacrond, which means Sybil must have died by asphyxiation elsewhere. Then it's clear our next course of action is to determine how Lady Sybil was murdered. But we still don't know where she was murdered. And the only witness who saw her around this time was the High Speaker. Which was after the defendant disposed of Sybil's body. Well, the High Speaker's testimony is as good a start as any. For next witness, the defense would like to call High Speaker Theon Arceus to the stand. What's wrong? It's nothing. Please, carry on. I just fucking hate that guy. King's Guard. Let's go on High Speaker Arceus to the witness stand. Witness, you will testify about... Oh, great and blessed Scale Lord! To think you would grace us with your presence. Oh my god. Forgive me, Lord Vithalion. I spoke out of turn. You must think I'm an arrogant fool. Wow, it looks like the witness is schmoozing the judge for once. How many times do I have to tell you people that I'm not a god? Yes, I revere and serve the god of dragons, but I'm not Bahamut's avatar. But you're the Scaled Lord. I'm just a dragon. I'm not even a powerful one. I'm not a deity. This humility. That's exactly what Bahamut's avatar would say. I swear to God. He even swears by the god's name. Lucio, please handle this. Perhaps another approach is warranted. High Speaker Arceus, the great and powerful Vithalion calls upon you today. We require your... You require my blood? Of course. I will gladly give my life for the Scaled Lord. What? Oh, Jesus. Oh, God. I might have to... new Sprite. New Sprite. Look at that one. Look at you go. What? What? No. Of course. My blood could never be enough. Would you just let me? I will do as you wish, my lord. It might take some time, though. I'm just happy I get to use my old judge voice again. I'll need some time to gather followers and... Oh my god. We just want your testimony. Just tell us what you saw when Miss Steelwind was at the westward balcony yesterday. Oh, I see. If that's what you truly wish, my lord. Are we just going to ignore how ready he was to commit mass murder? Be quiet. We just got him to calm down. I was doing some paperwork in my quarters, and I suppose I lost track of time. My alarm went off, and I realized it was time for my afternoon prayers. I began heading to the prayer room when I spotted Lady Steelwind looking over the westward balcony. I tried to greet her, but she didn't respond to me. That's when I noticed she was pushing something large over the balcony and into Lake Galakrond. I asked her what she was doing, but once again she ignored me and went towards the prayer room. I thought nothing of it and made my way there as well. That's when the guards there turned me away. I went back to my quarters to do my prayers there. Considering the timing of it all, this must have happened minutes before she began attacking the prayer room. Yes, I consider myself lucky. The Scale Lord must have graced me with his divine luck. Please, just stop. Considering how quickly she was moving, there has to be a reason why she waited there. Was she waiting for the High Speaker to leave? Perhaps you should closely examine the timing of these events. What does that even mean? Large the balcony into Galakrond. How did you know it was large? If you could barely see it.
Objection!
Fuck. Okay. Let's just start doing the presents. An alarm. It's a rudimentary artificial device. I forgot how this universe worked. I don't even bat an eye at the mention of alarm. It's a rudimentary artificial device. I use it to remind me to conduct daily prayers. I see. And do you have it set to go off at a specific time? Yes. It's set to go off at 2:10 p.m. 5 minutes before my afternoon prayer. hours. 2:10 p.m. Died at 2:18. So if you died at 2:18 over the west. So you hadn't even gotten to your thing yet before Sybil croaked. So unless you were really slow, how could you have seen? Let me make sure I'm reading this right. Waste hour. This is the first I've heard of this. Was I mistaken? Forgive me, my lord. I can't believe I've dishonored your deity. You know what? Just forget I said anything. So, your praise at 2:15, but she died at 2:18. So that doesn't make sense timeline-wise.
Objection!
I'm right about this. I just need to figure out the right place to put it.
Objection!
It couldn't have been Sybil because of the 2:8. Am I thinking about the wrong thing? Am I in the wrong, like, path?
Objection!
Is that what's going on here? What was her expression like? It was very cold and emotionless. The patron must have had control of her when this happened. Yes, that certainly makes the most sense. Right. What time did this happen? It was shortly after my alarm went off. It would definitely be before 2:15 p.m. But she died at 2:18.
Objection!
Can I do that? Wait, what? Is something wrong? That is, but I'm not really sure what it means. Stop stammering and say what you want to say. Hi, Speaker. You said that you saw Arya dumping something over the ledge of the balcony. There's no need to be so vague, Cuthbert. It's clear from the evidence that he saw my daughter dumping Lady Sybil's body. That's the thing, Lord Steelwind. It couldn't have been Sybil's body. What are you talking about? The location from that balcony to where we found Lady Sybil's body lines up perfectly. That may be, but the witness just said he saw Arya dumping the body before 2:15 p.m. Wait. You see it too, don't you, Lucio? How did Arya dump Coraline Sybil's body into Lake Galagrond before 2:15 p.m.? If her time of death was 2:18 p.m. Oh, shit! I see. That does seem peculiar. But we know the defendant threw Sybil's body from that balcony. There would be no other explanation for how it ended up there. Yes, that's also true. Perhaps she was still alive when Arya threw her off that balcony. She could have been knocked unconscious with a sleep spell. Your Grace, there were no traces of conjuration magic on her body. And even if she was asleep, she wouldn't have survived the fall from that height. The distance from that balcony to the lake is more than 30 stories. And the autopsy report says that the cause of death was suffocation, not blunt force. Right. So when did she die? She died before she was thrown. Okay, so she died as she was thrown? She died after she hit the water? She must have died after she hit the water. But Mr. Cuthbert, Lucia just said that she would have died upon impact. But that's assuming she didn't do anything to lessen the blow. She might have had the opportunity to cast a spell to protect herself. That might explain why her body isn't as damaged despite falling from such a great height.
Objection!
So she also cast the cube? Again, that doesn't match with the evidence. Lady Sybil's spell compendium contains the spells Slow Fall. If she had the opportunity to cast a spell, she would have used that spell to slow her descent. And she wouldn't have taken any damage from hitting the lake if she'd done that. That's a really good point. Your Honor, he's spitting. But just indulge me for a second. Alright. She casted big old cube. Where's cube, boy? Where's cube? Come on, give me cube. Come on, give me big cube. Where's big cube? Spell, Polymorph, Steven, Strike. Oh. Where's big old cube? Come on, give me first cage. Big old cube. What a blessing, the impact of hitting like Gallic Rond. Oh. Really? Is it not? I really thought it was big old cube. It's not slow fall because she died. Old creature. Here, let's look at our compendium. That'll make things easier. Slow fall, foresight, strike 2, protect magic, stone. Oh, she do stone skin? She must have cast stone skin on herself. Stone skin. If you recall, the high speaker mentioned that something was strange about the object Arya threw over the balcony. It was much darker, and it didn't match with Sybil's usual garb. Almost as if there was something else Sybil was wearing. That object was actually Lady Sybil protected by a layer of stone. Alright, so I had the right thinking in mind, just the wrong spell. But that still doesn't explain why she would cast that instead of Slow Fall. He's right. Arya... Arya tricked. Sybil was still alive after they were attacked. Cast some skin before hitting the lake. Before they were attacked. Murders. Being thrown into the lake. Yeah, that, obviously. Cast some skin on herself before she was thrown into the lake. I'm thinking a little too ahead of the game, I think, with that one. I must have attacked her, and she cast that spell in response. Right. I figured that one out. That would protect her from the Steel Wind strike. But that doesn't seem quite right. What do you mean? I may not have seen much, but I saw that the object I had dumped was stiff and motionless. If it had been Lady Sybil, she would have been struggling against her, wouldn't she? That's a good point too. The High Speaker saw Arya dumping a motionless Sybil, but if we assume my logic is correct, she would have also still been alive. Because she was made of fucking rock. Sybil was affected by a spell. Sort of kept her resisting, which must have made Arya cast a spell on her. Let me look at Arya's Spicandium. Variable shape liquid, spell magics, morph and hold. Oh, hold creature. Where's hold creature? Oh, I feel like it was a later one, wasn't it? Yeah, that's the heart, sure. It was hold creature, Your Honor. Sybil must have cast some skin on herself when I attacked her. The patron must have known that Arya couldn't physically damage her like that. So they ordered to restrain Sybil with that spell. And Sybil died by suffocation. Well, that's right, Lucio. Gold star for you. Even if she was restrained, Sybil was still protected by stone skin. That would have left only one option for the patron. Sybil drowned in Lake Galakrond. Sybil suffocated when Arya threw her into Lake Galakrond. The stone skin lessened the impact of the fall, but it also made her drop like a literal rock. Baba fucking Booey. Arya's hold creature spell prevented her from moving or releasing her spell. She was helpless as she sank to the bottom of the lake. God, that's fucking terrifying. I believe that covers all three of the murders, then. Right. Lord Von Sanctus suffocated to death in his own false cage. Lady Sybil drowned after Arya cast hold creature spell on her. And Lord Pierce died after being wounded by a blade created with shaped liquid. The only common thread I see is that the patron used some of the victim's magics against them. How does that connect to Pierce? Did he cast shaped liquid to make a blade to defend himself? Maybe the murderer took it from him and used it against him. No, but he's knocked unconscious alongside you. He couldn't have been the one to create that blade. Anyways, whoever did this had an in-depth knowledge of each of the spells they used to defend themselves. They knew that Von Sanctus couldn't dispel his own false cage, and they also knew that he still needed oxygen from within it. In Sybil's case, they knew Arya couldn't physically harm her when she had stone skin active. They also knew that hold creature would prevent Sybil from dispelling her own stone skin. Not only that, they did all of this in a quick time frame. Von Sanctus and Sybil died within 13 minutes of each other. And if Arya had encountered Celeste, P.S. might have died just as quickly. So whoever did this had an in-depth knowledge of high-level magic. Not only that, they came up with creative ways to bypass the defenses put up by Von Sanctus and Sybil. Yes, they had the ability to react quickly and decisively. But considering the circumstances, that hardly narrows it down. Several members of the Four Pillar families were present that day. Each and every one of them studied at the Imperial Academy. They would all be knowledgeable in magic and its applications. Something they're saying isn't sitting right by you for some reason. There's something there, so why can't you just see it? Ugh, it's no use. It's no use! You just can't piece it together. Yeah, I almost said pierce it. He's dead. But you're not finished yet. There's another angle to this, considering who the patron did and didn't target. The victims were Lord Von Sanctus, Coraline Sybil, and Garrick Pierce. What's the similarity that we can draw between at least two of them? Von Sanctus and Sybil are house leaders of pillar families. Von Sanctus and Sybil were the heads of the respective noble houses. Are you saying that the patron's goal was to assassinate leaders of the four pillars? Yeah, no What else was their goal? That's the motive that makes the most sense. But that does leave one question. Don't be coy, I'm not daft, Cuthbert. Actually, I highly doubt it was you. Really now. Out of the most people there, you could have easily tricked your daughter into signing a blood contract. But why would you need to do that? You're the Grand General of Ivengard's military, and the cathedral was filled with your men. You could have easily equipped one of your best mages to carry out this massacre, and you wouldn't even need to make a deal with a demon to do so. So why wasn't Lucio targeted then? From her encounter with Celeste, it's clear that there's a limit to Arya's combat capabilities. The patron might have simply doubted Arya's ability to defeat the Grand General. But there's also another explanation. The patron wanted to save wanted to frame House Steelwind to make them suffer. Wanted frame when they're controlling Arya, they didn't make any spectacular actions. They wanted people to see her. Okay. The patron wanted to frame House Steelwind using Arya. Wanted to frame Arya for the murders. The wanting to save, that's getting to me. Patron wanted to save Tyrion from the nobility. Yeah, it was dumb anyway. They wanted to save House Steelwind from the nobility. The patron wanted to kill the victims using Arya's. Yeah, right. Wanted to hide. Wanted to frame House Steelwind. Lucia wanted to save House Steelwind. What? What's going on here? What's going on with this one? It's gotta be the patron. Oh, wanted to. Oh, there's a wanted to frame. Oh. The nobility. Wait. For the murders. Okay, I was on the right track. I just missed the wanted to frame. The patron wanted people to suspect House Steelwind for the murders. They used Lucia Steelwind's daughter to commit the crime. Then they intentionally left him alive to cast suspicion on him. That's why they used my daughter. Is that a tinge of anger you feel from him? Yeah, no shit. Anyways, that leads me to my next point. Imagine if we never discovered Arya's blood contract with the Empress of Discord. What would have happened? We'd still think that Miss Steelwind succumbed to Mage Flight. She would have been convicted for the murders, and trust in House Steelwind would be forever diminished. About a month ago, House Freyga lost its head, and his successor, Leigh Freyga, was woefully unprepared to take his place. Now the heads of House von Sanctus and House Sybil are dead, with House Steelwind being held responsible for it all. All four pillar families would have been weakened as a result of the massacre. But I think there's another layer to this. Everything fits together if we assume that the patron's goal was to weaken the pillar families. Except for the murder of Garrett Pierce. Oh, is that... Well, shit. If Celeste is part of the fucking four pillar families, maybe they didn't want Celeste to be a successor. And Celeste could only be a successor if it was revealed, if she knew that the fucking people. But Garrett Pierce knew, so they're like, okay, we gotta take out Pierce so Celeste doesn't take after any of the four. Right? Stupid theory. Maybe not that stupid. Yes, in contrast to Sybil and Von Sanctus, Pierce's political power pales in comparison. Furthermore, Pierce was already scheduled to be executed next month for the murder of Flynn Hunt McCoy. Why would the patron go to the trouble of murdering a condemned man? Pierce knew the identity of Celeste's parents. The patron murdered Pierce because they needed him to die as quickly as possible. Pierce knew the identity of Celeste's biological parents. My parents? Do you remember what Pierce said when we showed up for the meeting? Ah, you finally arrived. I suppose this means you finally decide, oh shit, it's you. Yeah, but if you, this happened before. You weren't the intended recipients of the letter. That's right. So that leaves one last question. The patron. There's only one person Pierce could have sent that letter to. The person who orchestrated the massacre in the first place. The patron. What that means. The patron is someone who would be threatened by Celeste's parentage. Bah! Order. Order in the court. I don't understand. I'm sorry, I know this is a lot to take in, but I think they were targeting you for some reason. Pierce knew the identity of Celeste's parents and attempted to blackmail the patron with this. Instead of complying with Pierce's demands, the patron instead sent the letter to me. But why go through the trouble of luring you there? They could have just allowed Pierce to wait in the prayer room while the defendant made her way to murder him. Looking back on it, it's possible they wanted to kill Celeste too. What? They knew I wouldn't meet with Pierce alone, and the information he had was about her. The patron correctly guessed that I'd bring her with me. By killing both Pierce and Celeste, they'd eliminate any threats Celeste would pose to them. But who would be threatened by such information? The mere existence of McCoy posed a threat to them. It must have something to do with her birthright. Right. So who would that leave? The royal family. King the Arriving God just recently died. What if Celeste was a member of the royal family? You think I'm a princess? I don't want to suspect AotA, but we need to consider every possibility. And when it comes to the conflicts of inheritance, royal line succession is the first thing that comes to mind. Not only that, the king would have the authority to pardon Pierce for his crimes. But that wouldn't entirely make sense. What do you mean? If McCoy was abandoned at the tavern in Cornhaven, we must assume she's a bastard child. Okay, I don't know why you have to bring that up. My point is that King Olivier wouldn't abandon a child of pure royal blood. The kingdom requires heirs to continue the royal bloodline. He would have leveraged her in a diplomatic marriage. That's gross. That's diplomacy, Cuthbert. Anyways, even if McCoy was of royal blood, AotA's the king's eldest child. And he's of pure royal blood. McCoy would have no claim to the throne under these circumstances. Right, I see what you mean. I suppose that eliminates AotA for now. Anyways, we should consider the other suspects first. So who would that leave? Frege. Which one's Frege? Oh, that's Beatrice. She don't look like any of them. And Frege isn't that powerful to begin with. Steelwind, I feel like Lucio would know about Celeste. The Eye Taker? What if the Eye Taker orchestrated this whole thing? The Eye Taker, that common criminal. What reason would he have to do this? I've heard firsthand that he was planning to expand his influence with Wyvern God. He was actually plotting with Beatrice to use House Frege to do so. Since I ruined his original plan, setting up that massacre might have been his backup plan. Perhaps we're looking at this all wrong. What if Celeste was a part of the royal family and they were planning to use her to take the throne? But if he wanted to do so, why would he put McCoy in danger by having my daughter attack her? Not only that, he had the perfect opportunity to murder His Majesty. Okay, so now it's looking like maybe it is the Freges. We need to consider every possibility. We should consider the suspects first. I'm too scared to even suggest Eye Taker or Sealwind. I recall during Beatrice Frege's trial, we heard William Frege's last will and testament mentioned that the House Frege's assets would be divided evenly between all of his children. Ah, If McCoy were to be revealed as a Freyja, his daughter would be legally obligated to share the estate with her. Can I seriously be a Freyja? I don't want to suspect Leigh for Miriam, but we need to consider every possibility. Alright, it's strange to make deal with demons. This doesn't quite fit. I doubt Leigh for Miriam would do something like this. I tend to be a good judge of character, and then something like this. Ah, you're far too trusting. I hold no doubt that any of William's children would be capable of doing something like this. I suspect we'll have to see. Alright, I guess I'm gonna have to suggest Steelwind. House Steelwind is the only pillar family whose house leader survived this past month. You think Guy McCoy's magical biological... really a father to your actual daughter. I'm only saying the possibility for the sake of argument. As I've said, it wouldn't make sense for you to frame your own daughter when House Steelwind would be blamed. But we need to consider every possibility. But I can't think of anyone else. Yes, there's a flaw with each suspect. Your logic is clearly flawed. You don't see him coming up with any ideas. There's something I'm not seeing. I know I'm close. There's a missing piece that ties this all together. Regardless, we still have no idea who this Empress of Discord is. I am loath to allow such an individual to walk freely through Wyvern Grace, you've been alive since the creation of Wyvern and magic. Do you know who this demon is? I can't say that I do. Demons tend to take on many titles over their lifetimes. But whoever this Empress is, they are brave to so blatantly encroach on my domain like this. Well, I suppose we'll just have to cross that bridge when we get there. We've obtained a lot of information today, but we clearly have many questions that need to be answered. How should we proceed? Ugh. What is it, Mr. Cuthbert? I can't help but feel there's something here I'm not seeing. I just can't put my finger on it. We have been working at this for quite a while. Perhaps we should suspend proceedings so that we can look into these new leads. I have no objections. It would give my men some time to look into what we've discovered today. What? Wrong one. Okay, they just switched to Tyrion for a second. Then it's settled. We'll be postponing proceedings for now. But you'll all be expected to return here by tomorrow morning. You are all free to return to your homes for the time being. But make no mistake, the King's Guard will be keeping careful watch over all of you. Still, this constant nagging sensation in the back of your mind. Hey, Tyrion? It's as if you've forgotten something extremely important. Tyrion! What is it? What could possibly be so important it's so difficult to remember? Tyrion! What? I was just thinking about everything. You're looking really stressed out. You want to head back to your house to rest? No. We only have a day until the trial resumes. If we can't figure out what happened after tomorrow, magical traces will dissipate. But you already know what happened. You just don't know who did it. Right. We should speak with the suspects again. Maybe if I get lucky, I'll see something through the Eye of Horus. But one of the suspects is the Eye Taker. What are you gonna do about him? I suppose I'll have to speak with him too. What? No! What if he tries to kill you again? Arya's life is on the line. That's just a risk I'll have to take. Tyrion, do you even understand what you've been pulled into? What? Someone just murdered a bunch of nobles, and they even attacked members of the royal family. Now there are ancient dragons and demon lords involved too. Isn't this above your pay grade? Huh? Ouch. You know that's not what I mean. It's just this whole thing is crazy, isn't it? It's fine. It's just like any of our other investigations. It's not, though. What if the Empress of Discord attacks you? What if the patron decides that you're getting too close to the truth? What if I can't... Her voice begins to break. Celeste? Are you still worried about what happened during the massacre? I'm fine. I already told you that you didn't do anything wrong. You almost died, Tyrion. I know. Tyrion, you almost died. I know, Celeste. No, Tyrion, I don't think you do. Do you have any idea how worried I was when she broke past me? I saw you all lying on the floor. So many things were going through my mind. I don't know what I would have done if you were... She can't even complete that sentence. Celeste, you were so focused on everything else that you've been ignoring her. She was attacked by AotA and almost died. Never even thought about how traumatic that must have been for her. I'm sorry, I didn't think... Don't apologize. Just please. Please, just leave this to Lucy and the Scale Lord. We've done enough already. They can figure the rest of it out. And what if it's not enough? I'm not so arrogant that I think they can do it without me. But what if they can't figure out who the patron is? Arya will spend the rest of her life in prison. What if I could have done something to prevent that? I don't care if that happens. Celeste. I don't care, Tyrion. I'll apologize to her all you want after this. But all I want is to keep you safe. And I don't know if I'm able to do that anymore. Even she seemed surprised by what she said. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to... I'm really happy you're a part of my life. What? I know what you're saying is coming from a place of care. And I'm really sorry about how much I've been worrying you lately, but... You're not gonna stop, are you? It's like I've always said. Man, king, or god, nothing will stop you from getting justice for your clients. I'm gonna go talk to Lucio. What? If we're gonna meet the Eye Taker again, we're bringing some knights with us. So, that's hardly... Nope, you don't get a say in this. And if you're not here when I get back, I will find you. Judging from her expression, it's not an empty threat. Fine, just go. She might have a point, though. Before everything happened, you weren't even sure if you wanted to continue being an attorney. Maybe you should consider a safer, quieter life after this is all done. Perhaps a life with her. Oh. Wait, what? Alright, Lucio's cleared it. It was surprisingly easy to convince him. Oh, you good? I'm fine. Let's not waste any more time. Before she has a chance to respond, you hastily walk past her. Hey, don't walk so far ahead. You need to stay focused on the trial, for Arya's sake. And when this is all over, you'll... Well, you suppose you don't have to think about that until then. Oh. Okay. A bit of a longer one. I haven't done a long one in a hot minute. I'm really trying to get this over with soon, so... Before Halloween, or before October, month of Halloween, whatever. See you next episode. Goodbye.